Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 3 with me, Fitri Aulia, and my friends, Royana Chairani and Tasya, Natali, Sihombing. We are from Bilingual Mathematics Education Study Program 2019. We would like to explain about multiple regression analysis. And the first explanation is by my friends, Tasya, Natali, Sihombing. Tasya, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Fitri. First will be explained by me. This is the table of content. The first is introduction. The second is problem and problem solving. The third is conclusion. And the last is reference. Okay, chapter 1, introduction. We know this background. Reading is one of the important factors for students in determining their success in studying in college. There is a slogan used by many people to attract interest, namely, books are the window of the world. This is because through books, we can get knowledge from various corners and know various things happening in the world. Reading interest, or X1, is one of the X variables, which is the first thing we examine because while learning motivation X2 becomes the second X variable because even though a student has high reading interest, like a lack of learning motivation will slow down a student to get a good academic achievement score. The word motivation itself can be interpreted to encourage someone to do something. Therefore, the driving force of a motivation in an important thing for someone to learn, learning achievement, or why, is the only y variable, which is the result of the benchmark on the impact of the various two x variables. Achievement itself is evidence of the result of a person's hard work. Next.
Wait a minute ya, Tasya. Tuh nggak jalan, weh.
Okay, next is formulation. There are formulation. The first is what is regression analysis. The second is what is multiple regression analysis. The third is what is the procedure of multiple regression analysis using SPSS. And the last is what are the result and interpretation of the case made on multiple regression analysis. Next. Okay, the third R is objective. And we know in this slide, the first is knowing the definition of regression analysis. The second is knowing the use and purpose of regression analysis. The third is knowing the form of the relationship between the independent and dependent variables in regression analysis. The fourth is knowing the difference between two linear in regression analysis. And the last is knowing the stage in conduction regression analysis. And then theoretical review. Multiple linear regression analysis is an analysis that has more than one independent. Analysis regression has long been developed to study patterns and measure statistical relationship between two or more variables or variable. An analytical technique that tries to explain the relationship between two or more variables, in particular between variables that contain causality, is called regression analysis. Analysis that has more than one independent variables is called multiple linear regression analysis. Multiple linear regression technique is used to determine whether there is a significant effect of two or more independent variables is x1, x, x2, x3 until k to the dependent variables or y. The multiply linear regression model for the population can be shown as follows. Y equals beta 0 plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus until beta n x n plus e. The multiply linear regression model for the population above can be estimated using multiple linear regression models for the sample is namely y equals b0 plus b1 x1 plus b2 x2 plus until bkxk with y is estimator value for variable y and b0 is guess for the constant parameter and b1 b2 until bk is guess for the parameter constants is beta 1 beta 2 until beta k and x is independent variable. Next. And then this is the problem and problem solving will be explained by Royana.
Okay, I will explain about the procedure, how to analyze data with multiple regression analysis. The first one, open your SPSS software in your PC or your laptop by double-click the icon of software, and there is our data. There are 30 data, and the next step, do input data. We can click variable view and data view and fill them. You can see on the screen for the variable view, there is 3 variable. There are minat baca, motivasi belajar, dan prestasi belajar. For the type is numeric and the measure is scale. Next, the data view. We can type our data. As I say, there are 30 data. And the next step, click analyze. Then select regression and then select linear. And for dependent column, I choose prestasi belajar as the variable y, and for independent column, I choose minat baca and motivasi belajar as variable x1 and x2. Next, for the method is enter, and I click statistic. For the regression coefficient, I choose estimates, and we can click on the model fit. For the residuals, I click case-wise diagnostic, and I choose all cases. Click continue. Next, click options. Use probability of F entry 0,05, 0,05, and for the missing values, click exclude case list with, click continue, and the last step for plots, click plots. Next, for the Y column, we choose stress ID and Z-spread, enter the X column, click next, Z-spread, enter the Y column, and dependent, enter the X column. Mark for normal probability plot and click continue. If you all done about this step, click OK, and the output will appear as screen. You can see there are variables enter or remove table, model summary table, ANOVA table, coefficient, case-wise diagnostic, residual statistic, and for the chart, there are several charts. Yeah. That is the output. Okay, that's all for the procedure how to analyze data with multiple regression analysis. Thank you.
Saya kembalikan ke moderator. Kepada Fitri, dipersilahkan.
Thank you, Thank you, Royana. And before is the procedure of making this calculation using SPSS. Now, I would like to explain the manual calculation first. And this is the result of the regression. There are data set one with the descriptive and mean is rata-rata. So Y is 74 and XY is 75.833 and X2 is 74.5. With the standard deviation is 5.4047 and X1 and standard deviation of X1 is 8.31 and standard deviation of X2 is 6 with the N value is 30 and we got the data set about descriptive statistic, and this is you can see there are correlations, variable entered or removed, then the model summaries. Next. And this is the coefficient, ANOVA, and residual statistics that we got by doing the procedure before. This is the coefficient. This is the coefficients and the depend variable. And this is the descriptive statistic. From the output, it can be seen that the average reading interest X1 of 30 students is 75.83 with a standard deviation of 8.31. So the average learning motivation X2 is 74.5 with a standard deviation of 6.61, while the average learning achievement Y is 74 with standard deviation 5.47. This is the correlation that we got before. So from the table before, it can be seen that the large relationship between the variable of reading interest X1 and learning motivation X2 is 0.25243. This shows that there is a positive relationship. The relationship between reading interest X1 and learning achievement Y is 0.663, which means there is a positive relationship. The greater reading interest X1 is higher learning achievement Y. The relationship between learning motivation X2 and learning achievement Y is 0.724, which means that there is a positive relationship. The greater the learning motivation X2, the higher the learning achievement Y. Variable in and out. Variable enter or remove. The table above show that the variable enter are reading interest X1 with learning motivation X2, while the excluded variables do not exist or no variable removed. The remaining models in the table above, the number of arc square is 0.776, which is the result of the square of the correlation coefficient, or 0.881 multiplied by 0.881 is 0.776. The standard error of the estimate is 2.6x936. Notice in the statistical descriptive analysis that the standard deviation of learning achievement is 5.47723. which is much larger than the standard error, because standard error is smaller than the standard deviation of learning achievement. So the regression model is good at acting as a predictor of learning achievement. This is the ANOVA result by the calculation using SPSS before. Then the table above is a summary which included the minimum and the maximum value, the mean and the standard deviation of the predictive values and residual statistics. In the residuals come from a normal distribution, then the value of the data's distribution will lie around a straight line. It can be seen that the distribution of the data in the image above is spread almost entirely on the normal axis. It can be said that the statement of normality can be fulfilled by show by the graphic below. And this is the manual calculation that we done by the data table that we use. So the matrix equation will be formed as follows. And sum of x1 and sum of x2. By the calculation that has we done, we can calculate that the a value is a value is 7170370, and A1 is X0647500, and A2 is 24436X75, and A3 is 355233125. And this is the calculation of the B value. And by the calculation that we has done, we found that B0 is 11.24732, and B1 is B1 is 0.3408033, and B2 is 0.494152. So then we can determine the regression equation is y equals to B0 plus B1x1 plus B2x2. So the y is 11.247 plus 0.351x1 plus 0.495x2. So we can conclude that regression analysis studies the form of the relationship between one or more independent variable with one dependent variable. This relationship is usually expressed in the form of a mathematical equation whose form can be linear or non-linear. The resulting equation is a prediction that describes the relationship between the predictor variable and the response variable. The deviation from the original value and the predict value often occurred because in making predictor based on the average value and using an equation that describes a certain line. For that reason, one of the conditions to be able to make predictions on the dependent variable in the future, as well as within the population on the basis of several scores of independent variables and significant variables, is the presence of an independent variables and a significant variable as a sample of the dependent variable. Amiable regression is closely related to the correlation. Every regression must have a correlation, but the correlation is not necessarily followed by a regression. A correlation that is not continued, but the regression is a correlation between two variables that have no causal relationship of a functional relationship. And we can suggest that readers can pay attention to the menus in SPSS before using it, so that as not to be overwhelmed in analyzing statistical data, readers can try to analyze data using the other applications such as RStudio, MATLAB, and so on, in order to add insight to use to the other application for analyze the data. This is the reference or the journal that we use mm, for doing these activities. There are 3, and thank you.
Okay, that's all for our video about multiple regression analysis. We are sorry about our shortcoming. Thank you.
Thank you. You are
Thank
welcome.
you. See you.